I'm standing at Suo Kokufu, the remains of Suo Kokufu. And the remains of Suo Kokufu are an important tourist attraction in Shunan City. And Kokufu means head of government. It's a place where 1500 years ago there was a kind of prefectural building, a kind of city hall of sorts, for the surrounding region, to govern the surrounding region. And well, I suppose it is quite amazing that the Japanese had a system of government, a centralized system of government with regional prefectural offices 1500 years ago, based on the Chinese system. And so I guess that there's no inconsiderable amount of national pride associated with such ruins, but that this should be a tourist attraction. There's a gentleman taking a photo of his daughter. He came from Mie Prefecture, I could tell from his number plate, and he took a photo of his daughter there. So people come from all around Japan to see this ruin, and they've been called Ruins of Identity by a guy called Hudson, who wrote a book about the origins of the Japanese. But he got it from Platcho, who's a doyen of Japanese studies, and I guess it was there for the taking because Matsuo Basho and all the famous travelogues written by Japanese writers, and they do tend to write travelogues, are written about places often which are ruins. This is on a website called Walking the Ruins, and so it's traditional for Japanese people to go to places where, as you can see, nothing beside remains. What's the word from Ozymandias? That there's absolutely nothing at all. Now this rather confounds the Western theory of going to places to see things. Urry and even Victor Turner speak of tourism and pilgrimage respectively of in search of an image, that you go to places where you receive an image. However, when people such as Matsuo Basho travel to the far end of Japan to see a field, or when people come here to see essentially a field, what image are they provided with? I suggest instead that when they come here and there are benches, a kind of viewing platform with no view. Here it is. You can see it's not bustling, but the viewing platform is provided underneath the trees here to provide some shade. And there's some information about what was here in the year 645, nearly 1500 years ago, and how many people would have liked to been living here. And so people can sit on these benches, look out across the field, and imagine what it was like 1500 years ago. Yeah, wow. And as I was saying, I'd like to relate this to freedom and unfreedom. There's a theory that the ultimate in leisure is to be free. And for that reason, it's argued that the ultimate in hospitality, this is Western theory, is to provide someone with a long menu and plenty of choices and tell them to help themselves. You can have anything you like. You can choose whatever you like, and so then you're completely free to choose. You've got a big long list of, say, cocktails on a cocktail menu, and you're in a beautiful place. So you sit there, watching this beautiful place, the waves rolling in, or maybe a mountain scenery, or maybe a famous Italian piazza, and you order various things, and you snap your fingers and people bring it to you, and you feel completely free. And you're provided with a vision, you're provided with something to see, and you're provided with the opportunity to make lots and lots of choices. And now this appears to be completely, as it's described, as being free, and also focused upon images. So, on the one hand, as you're ordering, you're looking at these images that are provided for you. Now, what I'd like to suggest is that the Japanese are just as free, and they're doing it just as much what's the word for it? Self-generated, autonomous choices, in a sense. Choice isn't the right word, but autonomous mental creation, or autonomous mental, what's the word, where you think up something, where something comes out of your head. I'll have a fuzzy navel. However, when Japanese people come here, they don't say, hey, I want a fuzzy navel. Indeed, that in Japanese tourism experiences, words and those kind of menu choices are often completely absent. That the best kind of hospitality, according to Takeo Doi, is where you don't have to say a word. Your host will look at you and decide what you want completely. You're given no menu options whatsoever. The menu is all decided by the host. The menu is zilch. You eat it in this order, you eat it in this way. However, at the same time, you are given a whole load of opportunities to think things up out of your brain autonomously. Because when people come, when Matsuo Basho came to his empty field, what did he do? He imagined the warriors that used to live there, and their dreams, and what's left of them. And people, that's what people do when they come here, and they sit on those seats over there. They imagine. And they bring all sorts of images up into their brain. And they're just as free. Except the things they're calling into their brain aren't a lot of orders for someone else to make them cocktails, but they're all sorts of images of what happened here 1500 years ago. So why this difference? I suggest it's because the reason why we go and see images, because we think the images are out there. Obviously tourism is about travelling, you go somewhere. And so we go to see something because we see that the thing that's outside of where we are, outside of our homes, outside of ourselves, is the vision. We're like Jackson's Mary, trapped in our world of words, in our purely scientific world, and so we go out there to see things, to prove that there is an out there. So this is Frenchiness, the guy with clogs in Brittany. This is Italian. This is Italianness, the piazza. And then we're reminded that we're in here and that's out there, and the whole structure of our world is reinforced. However, for the Japanese it's the reverse. They don't need to go anywhere to watch things. The heart is a mirror. You can call to mind any vision you like. You don't need to travel somewhere for a vision. Yeah, if your heart is a place, as Nishida argued, a kind of space or place, or mirror is another thing. The mind's eye, you could call it, or the visual field was what Mach called it. If your heart is that kind of thing, rather than a narrative, then you don't need to travel for visions. At the most, what you do is you make a replica, and that's what the Japanese are fond of doing in their foreign villages. They just make replicas. If you travel for a named place, for the language. Language is out there. And this is one of those named places, a meisho. And there's nothing to see. But when you're here, you know you're here. You're told, this is where it was. And you can imagine. You can give free rein to your visual imagination. And order those cocktails of the mind. Images.